Uh, I'll only talk about one thing today, that's man behind the machine. So we're talking about the machine quite a bit, internet, bandwidth, infrastructure. But I'd like to talk about the man which makes that infrastructure work or not work, or actually creates the incentives to create the infrastructure. Let me talk about a story actually. A couple of years ago, we started working with 20,000 farmers, sugarcane farmers, who used to receive a purchase order on a slip of paper for the last 95 years. So that was the process of getting a purchase order from the sugar mills. This particular innovation that was introduced by an officer of the Ministry of Industry in consultation with us and some farmers actually, changed that paper process to an SMS-based process. So instead of sending a paper purchase order, they would get an SMS. And that was experimented with 20,000 farmers, with the result that the corruption that was endemic in the system was almost wiped out in 1 year. Small farmers that were always marginalized would get the order at the right time because canes were sold by weight. So since they would be able to bring the canes on time, they would get their right weight and also get the right price. And this one was scaled up from 20,000 farmers to all 200,000 sugarcane farmers in 1 year within the country by the sugar mills themselves. The second story has to do with setting up of 2 public-private partnership centers, one-stop centers in 2 local government institutions in the country. The center was a local government institution, but it was operated by 2 local entrepreneurs who were not hired by the government. And what we saw was that if you look at the list of services here, the only service that was provided on paper when this center was introduced was birth and death registration. All the other services did not even exist at that level. But over time, over the last 4 years, about 60 new services were introduced in this center, not only by public agencies, but also by private sector organizations such as banks, insurance companies. Obviously, you have universities, both public and private, also introduce their services in these centers. So now what we are seeing is that those 2 centers in 1 year was scaled up to 100 locations, and in 4 years, actually 5 years, was scaled up to 5,300 locations, covering all rural and urban local government institutions of the country. And what we noticed was that this prevented digital divide. So we don't talk about digital divide in Bangladesh too much. We still talk about social, economic, and education divides. Those are things that we still struggle with, but not digital divide, because we see this as a manifestation of the other types of divides. So there is no point talking about it separately. So this is a quick snapshot of the results that we have seen in the last 4 years. So 45 million electronic services were delivered from these 5,000 centers. 107 million birth registration were done electronically. It's not to say that 107 million children were born, but the old analog books have been converted to digital registry. 2.2 million migrant workers were registered just in 1 year. And we've seen these entrepreneurs making a total income of about $20 million over the last 4 years. Land records, one of the most vital document for Bangladeshi citizens. We've delivered about 3 million land records. All these collectively we've seen have brought to citizens a decrease in time and cost of about 50 to 80%, depending on the service. And there was a Transparency International report in 2012 that also showed that in certain services, corruption decreased by about 30% in service sector. Now, what has caused this upscaling really? I mean, what has caused us from going from small scale to large scale within a fairly short amount of time? And that's where the man behind the machine is critical. In 2007, we assigned 56 Chief Information Officers in the ministries. These were the officers who were second in command to the secretaries, senior bureaucrats who would work as the coordinator of e-governance activities within the ministry. We have seen this number grow to about 400, covering the departments also, not only the ministries, by 2009. In 2013, by an order of the cabinet, these information officers were turned into innovation officers. So we kept the CIO term, but the information term was changed into innovation. That gave larger pride, larger sense of ownership, larger drive, and larger incentive for the chief innovation officers. Also, the numbers was expanded. If you see at the bottom of the slide, this was expanded to districts and sub-districts, because that's where we started seeing the largest number of practical innovations coming. Not from the ministries, not from the departments. It's from the people who deal with the day-to-day challenges of delivering services to the citizens. That's where the best innovation, the most practical innovations come. And because these officers also deal with the citizens on a day-to-day basis, so a lot of the ideas come from the citizens themselves. The second important conversion that happened was from an officer to a team. So these 1,000 innovation officers had an innovation team around them, 5 to 7 people. It's about 6,000 innovation team members around the country that are working on grassroots innovation within the government right now. Now this is important. We started creating what we call risk space. We say that failure is an option, failure is encouraged by civil servants. Because typically within the government structure, failure is not encouraged. Failure is not something that you actually promote. But with the introduction of this Service Innovation Fund, we had a small fund in 2008, which was escalated to include not only civil servants, but also civil society, academia, research organizations who can actually apply to this fund to try out an experiment in public service simplification. So this was creation of this risk space. We're saying that by getting this small fund ranging from $5,000 to $40,000, they not only get a small fund to experiment something, but also they get the administrative protection from the Prime Minister's office to try out and fail. Because this failure will leave some very vital lessons for them. So the way this innovation fund works is there is the ideation, incubation, and then evaluation, which is supported by the innovation fund. And once the initiative succeeds, the two initiatives that I talked about, the sugarcane farmer and the one-stop service center. So those were the two initiatives that succeeded. So we found other sources of funds to upscale that, not from the innovation fund, from other funds to upscale that throughout the rest of the country. Last year we coined a very simple to understand definition of innovation within government. Before we talked about innovation incessantly, endlessly, and people had questions about what is innovation, what is innovative, what is not. And we now say that innovation is something within public service that reduces time, cost, and the number of visits for citizens. So they have to actually quantify it and show a demonstration that TCV has been reduced by introducing innovation in public service. Use of language we felt was very important. We retired the word e-governance over time to replace it with service at doorsteps, because that was non-threatening. E-governance brought the image of technology, computers, things that senior bureaucrats don't actually like to deal with. Business process reengineering, something that we have started with about 36 departments of the government, with about 120 bureaucrats at mid-level from the field. And we are in the process of publishing about a 4,000-page book which covers a few hundred services in a map form that shows how to simplify these service processes. But we don't use business process engineering. We don't use that term because business is threatening, not relevant for the government. Engineering is not relevant for the government, but service process simplification is. So we've actually renamed BPR to SPS, which has helped us. We have actually been using social media quite a bit. This is an example of a social media platform, a blog, which is about close to 14,000 members now. A lot of the grassroots entrepreneurs who provide these decentralized services to the citizens are part of this blog, but also at different levels, the different innovation officers are also part of this blog. And we're seeing collaborative problem solving, we're seeing best practices sharing to this blog. And recently what has happened is there's a new public service innovation Facebook group that has emerged. It's a closed group, it's not open to the public, but there are about 3,000 civil servants, including about 20 secretaries, who regularly discuss new ideas for innovation, new ideas for service process simplification. Last year, we introduced an innovation training course. This is an experiment again, like all the things that we have done in the last several years. We've used materials from Stanford Design School, Nesta, which is something the previous speaker talked about, the UK organization, and also our years of capacity development to develop course material where the participants, the innovation team members, have to actually go review their own office and review a different service delivery office. Well, what we've noticed is that by reviewing a different service delivery office, they developed critical thinking to criticize their own service delivery office. Because without that critical thinking, they wouldn't be able to do that previously. So that interesting innovation training has helped. The 7 divisional commissioners, these are the administrative heads in the divisions of the country, they regularly host what are called innovation circles, where local innovators are invited to present innovations and service delivery simplification. And we host at the Prime Minister's Office Innovation Forum, which are national level workshops for the best innovators to share ideas and also provide awards. And now we are working with 12 government training academies to embed this innovation training in Police Academy, in Tax Academy, and Civil Service Academy. We have tried to institutionalize, to some extent, a process of recognition and reward. At the end of every year, we have an innovation award, Best Civil Servant, Best District Administrator award provided by the Prime Minister. But also throughout the year, each district administrator, we have 64 of them, each district administrator holds a small innovation fair where citizens come and see showcasing innovation, and they also get, some local innovators also get awards there. This is an example of a dashboard. We have 64 dashboards in 64 districts now. So different district administrators now compete against each other to provide the best services. So this is in the local language, you won't understand this, but this has started the process of a gamification in Bangladesh within the government, and we are developing more sophisticated rules and algorithms for gamification. I'm just going to take one more minute to... So this was launched yesterday. This is one of the largest, we think, one of the largest government web portals in the world, which covers 25,000 offices of the government. So this has all the offices from the ministry down to the local government level, all in Bangla. And the interesting thing about this was that this was again piloted in 64 offices, 64 district administrators' offices, but now it has spanned 25,000 offices. The other interesting thing about this is that it was developed by 64 technologists in the beginning, but now that the technology has been made so simple that now 50,000 government officers and local level entrepreneurs regularly update this. These are all non-technical people which are responsible for updating this. So this is an example of crowdsourcing that we're doing within the government, within the local level innovators, within the local level civil service. We're also celebrating public service as something to be proud of. We are, one of the things that Mr. Kozia talked about yesterday, the decreasing pride in public service. So we're trying to promote around the Public Service Day, the concept of Public Service Week. We just started this year. So as we speak, we have 1,700 seminars organized by all district administrators and sub-district administrators that are happening around the country. 10,000 civic servants engaging in public rallies, and we're also doing an essay competition for school children. About 50,000 children are engaged in essay competition this week on public service innovation. The coordination is happening from the top with the combination of the Prime Minister's Office, which provides the political will, Cabinet Division, which provides the bureaucratic machinery, and the Ministry of Public Administration, which is the HRM organ of the government. So this orchestration is very vital to develop the coordination from the top, but all the execution, as you've seen, to reduce that high time, cost, and visits is happening at the local level. So we have the combination of the top-down planning and bottom-up execution that has made us successful. This is my last slide. This actually brings together what we are calling embedding innovation in the civil service DNA, which combines four things, four pillars. Service Innovation Fund, which provides a risk fund to enable the civil service to take risks. Service Innovation Camp, where civil servants, citizens engage in a dialogue to simplify service delivery. Innovation Fairs, which showcases the simplifications innovation, and the Innovation Awards, which recognizes innovation within civil service. This is the last quote that I want to leave you with. We are looking for these unreasonable people within civil service that will actually make real innovation happen within civil service. Thank you very much.